I'm Rob Sarney, and you're listening to What the Heck Fintech, where you'll experience and learn that fintech is FinLife. Let's get started. Welcome back to part 2 with Scott Mills. If you didn't hear part 1, please go back and listen to Scott's background and career and how Atlanta is a growing fintech hub and what the National Fintech Organization is all about. And you had some, when you said about that, rigidity, I'd love to hear your take too, and this is might be my take when I heard rigidity. The regulatory side, what do you think? What do we need to do regulatory-wise to really do that vision you just said, to make it easier? So banking and financial institutions can help, people through their life changes and life scenarios. What do you think about that? Like, what do we need to do in the United States? Because a lot of other nations are ahead of us on that.
Yeah. And I'll be very transparent and say for much of my career, I always thought of regulation as being something that occurred with the attorneys, the in-house attorneys, the compliance people, or in DC or at the state capitol. One of the best lines that I heard ever about the importance of compliance and regulatory was I was talking to a new client that was doing something in the mortgage insurance space, and he said, "Scott, my industry, with the stroke of a pen, could go away." I thought, that sounds pretty ominous. Tell me more. So he went on to explain that, that there are, people in federal government that have if there's a movement one way or another, that they're not wild about how you do business today, that the industry could go away. His part of the industry could go away. And that fascinated me. It's like, all right, that's kind of a scary thought. Maybe I should be paying attention. And I learned from some people like 𝗙𝗃𝗄𝗃, who's now at PNC Bank, and Kim Ford, who's at Fiserv, how important it is to be studying what might happen and what are some of the activities in government at the agency level and at the state level that may impact your ability to do business. And so for just one example is I understand that California often tries to lead in state regulation of something. And if California does it, other states might do it as well. So I know from mortgage industry experience that there are federal regulations, there's state regulations, there can be municipal regulation, and if there's different rules and disclosures regarding, say, disclosures, you got to make sure that if I'm giving Rob a mortgage, for his property in, X community, that I'm complying with all of those. So, in a sense, compliance and regulation sounded like a burden, and it has been an operational burden. So I'm not sure what the easy fix are for the fintech community in general, but I do know you have to be keeping track of it and aligning yourselves with associations like ICBA, protects community banks, for example. They are the expert on, how we ought to be viewing things that would impact that particular segment of our economy.
Right. And with fintechs coming up with such creative and novel ideas to make things frictional, like what's a bank anymore? What's an investment anymore? Like it's the whole definitions are changing, which impacts the regulation. And some regulation needs to be updated to reflect that, and some doesn't, right? So it's a odd balance. And when the little bit I've had conversations with state and federal regulators, right? I mean, it's an alphabet soup up there, and they all overlap a little bit or a lot with each other, especially state and federal, right? Could and
Right.
who jurisdiction and all. So that's a learning process if we want to get novel and make things more frictionless. But you got to stick with the regulations. Otherwise, you're not going to get the right support. You're not going to get the right funding. You're not going to get the right, you won't be able to do what you want to do. But regulators don't want you to run with scissors either with new ideas. They actually want you to come in and talk with them,
Right.
so they can explain. Yeah, that's a great idea. They actually want to be brought in and talk about that, so they can help guide. Okay, yeah, you can do that, but you can't do this. Whatever X is, right?
Yeah, and it does feel like and this is all secondhand because I'm not talking to regulators, but people that do seem to be describing a more open and transparent kind of a relationship with regulators to say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, to your point, you know, any concerns here, that sort of thing. I also know it's not easy for everyone with a fintech idea to go to a regulator or an agency and say, how do you feel about this? So there are people and organizations that are set up to do that. There is another fintech organization that's largely focused on government relations, for larger fintechs, and locally there's a group focused on payment regulations in the state of Georgia, and so there's a group for everything in there.
Yep. Wow, what an awesome! I love that perspective. So now I want to take that conversation and get your take on the Atlanta scene, right? Obviously, great fintech hub, Atlanta, right? Growing, making huge things happen. I'd love to hear your perspective of Atlanta because that's your home base, and you can boast. I want to hear it because I know Atlanta's doing great. I know they are every day.
Yeah, Atlanta's a great place to do business. It's very livable. As someone that grew up there, a lot of my friends growing up and today have come from elsewhere and never left. So I think that's an indication of maybe affordability, lifestyle, things that you get out of Atlanta. Traffic has gotten worse over the years, so probably not as bad as Boston and
not as
Washington.
bad as Boston. You guys, you don't know what bad is. Small infrastructure that we have here in the Massachusetts area.
I'll share a couple things about Atlanta. Our family came to Atlanta because of Equifax. So my father, graduating from Florida State, had done a tour of Equifax. It had a different name back then. And the guy that gave the tour said, well, if you ever want a job at it, our company, give me a call. That's exactly what my dad did. He called after graduation, got in his car, drove to Atlanta, rented a room, and that's why the Mills family are in Atlanta, is because of that company. And it's because of his experience at Equifax and a bank that's now part of B of A, and he ran marketing at the John H. Harlan Company. That really set our company, the William Mills Agency, on a direction to serve others that would appreciate the domain experience. But back to Atlanta. Okay, so Atlanta, what's fascinating to me throughout my career, for most of my career, networking was done at national trade shows. So you go around, you go to an event, you'd be in the food line. It's like, hey, where do you live? And they're like, Atlanta. And you're like, you're Atlanta? So there wasn't for most of my career, there wasn't a good fintech community kind of effort in Atlanta. And then there was a group called TAG, or Technology Association of Georgia. They have what they were called different societies. So there was one started for fintech, and my friend Sean Banks at TTV Capital ran that for many years. Mike Morris of Whipley is running it now and doing a terrific job. But that was the first effort to get people that made a living in fintech, and that can include service providers like PR firms and marketing firms, but also companies that had a presence. So one of the things Atlanta has, you think of Atlanta for Coke and Delta, that sort of stuff. NCR, since we have that beautiful building in Midtown, which is now two NCRs, NCR Voyix and NCR Atleos. But Atlanta has a lot of companies with a presence here that are not based here, which I think is kind of fascinating. So I mentioned Jack Henry earlier, FIS, Fiserv, all have a significant amount of employees in Metro Atlanta, but the company's not based here. And why is that? Well, we have access to a great airport, but it's a little less important about where you live than what you do. So we have a lot of talent here. We have a lot of people that make a living in the financial industry and in particular fintech. And so we're probably I do want to do, if you're interested in learning more about Atlanta fintech, there's this wonderful guide here.
Nice.
We call it the Ecosystem Report for short. 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗧 does a wonderful job leading this thing. It's done, I believe, every other year, but it's got a list of the companies, a lot of the companies that are based here. So there's a list of more than 260 fintechs, both public and private companies here, that's referenced, as well as discussion about some of the things that are helping the industry, such as the Georgia Fintech Academy. So that's a free download from the Tag Fintech site. So look for it, and maybe we can put a link in the show notes if people are interested.
Absolutely. Wow.
But one last thing about and we can talk more about it if you want, but the fintech community here, a lot of in terms of numbers of people are involved in payment processing. Mm-hmm. So we've had a lot of companies that were based that handled that. But what's interesting is the good diversity of types of companies. We even have an ag tech company that's based in Atlanta, and that's fun to hear. And you go, I don't think about Atlanta in the agricultural industry, but to have an ag tech company here, I think that's fantastic. The state of last time I checked, the biggest industry in the state of Georgia is agriculture, and so that's not one that maybe we give a lot of love to nationally, but it's a very big industry in our state, and obviously through much of the U.S., agriculture is huge, and there are unique needs for people doing business in agriculture. So if you're an independent farmer and you have revenue that comes in one time a year or two times a year, managing your operations and cash flow and getting the best pricing and things like that kind of banking is really important. So like I kind of suggested earlier, the experience for all of us in dealing with our finances, whether it's our business or our personal lives, I think the big opportunity there is to create to make it easier to do whatever you need to do, and that might require new products or new companies or banks or credit unions or other types of FIs to step up and say, hey, we've noticed that this particular group, whatever that group is, seems to be challenged in this way, and that's an area ripe to be improved.
Wow. And when you say agriculture too, I think peaches. Is that right or wrong? Or is that too much of a stereotype?
Well, we're not number one in peaches. I think South Carolina is, but we do have.
I thought that was Georgia peach.
We do have some peach business here. I don't. And in Atlanta, we have hundreds or thousands of streets with Peachtree in the name. So you might notice that if you come to town.
Okay, I got a couple you don't have to answer any of these if you don't want, but I got a couple rapid fire questions for you. Uh, Best Atlanta Hawks player you've ever seen?
Ooh, gosh. Best Hawks player that I've seen.
Seen or even whatever, like seen, heard, what's your favorite?
Oh well,
Could be current, could be old.
Dominic Wilkins was enormous, and they were really important when he played there. And we went through this dark period that felt like 20 years, maybe longer, that we haven't been consistently, part of the experience. But one of the things I didn't know because I was too young to be paying attention, but Pistol Pete Maravich used to be an Atlanta Hawk,
Yeah.
and I was like, really? And I'm sure it wasn't on TV much, and he was flashy and brilliant and a great shot. And that's just something that I think gets forgotten. That Pistol Pete's first stop out of LSU was here in Atlanta.
Had the floppy socks. He was like, he had it all going on, right?
He had this illusion kind of balls going this way, going that way.
I know. Like, he literally had the ball in the air as he put his hands around. It's like awesome. And with Dominique was a Celtic for at the very tail end of his career. I don't know if you remember that, but he was a Celtic. So, what's your favorite sports team? Is it the Falcons? Is it the Atlanta Flames? Right? It's the hockey, and then you get the Braves.
We had two hockey teams, both of which were beloved and then later sold to different ownership in Canada. So the Calgary Flames were the one when I was young, and then the Thrashers when I was an adult, and both went away. And we have a minor league hockey team, and I was surprised to learn that even Savannah has a minor league hockey team. I think they're called the Ghost Pirates, but apparently it's very entertaining. My favorite team, and I'm tortured over this, is the Atlanta Falcons because they're just it's so aggravating because about every 6 years they'll have a good season, but most of the time I'm just a tortured soul over those Falcons. I'd love to see them win a Super Bowl in my lifetime. That'd be great. The easiest team to love in Atlanta is the Braves,
Yeah.
and the Braves are consistently good and relevant, and it's a great experience to go to the ballpark there. We don't have a big green monster wall like you do, but it's a great experience. It's a family thing. And that's more baseball than football. But the Braves are very lovable as an organization.
Well, and with the Falcons, Matty Ice, BC guy, he went to BC, so a little connection there. That was a good years when you had Matty Ice going.
Those were good. We've been to the Super Bowl twice and lost twice, and one was with him.
Awesome. Well, Scott, for this audience, right, which is probably mostly regional right now, in the New England area and Massachusetts, how if people want to get connected with you, get connected with AFT, get connected with NFO, get connected with all of the great things you just said. How can they get connected with you so they can, learn more and collaborate more to make that's all advanced fintech together?
Well, I appreciate that opportunity. So I'll point people in two different places. Excuse me. William Mills Agency, williammills.com is we have some resources out there. So as an example, we have a trade show guide that shows a lot of the events going on throughout the year. And that's very helpful this time of year when you're trying to figure out where do I need to be, or I'm planning something, what should I work around? So that's out there. It's a free download. If there's an important conference that we left out, please let us know because we'll be doing supplemental updates at least once or twice on that. The LinkedIn is a good way to start a conversation with me. And I believe, and I gather you do too, because we're here having this conversation today, that we need to invest time in other people and learn from people, and it's not until we have a discussion can I really figure out, ways that I can help you, or point you in a direction that may be of interest, or if you're looking to raise money, who you should talk to, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The National Fintech Organization, it's easy to find on Google. I don't want to say the URL because I might get it wrong, but National Fintech Organization. Sign up, and we'll keep you on the email list for things like those webinars and other opportunities. And then National Fintech Organization on LinkedIn, just so you can see what's happening. And if you're interested in starting a chapter in your part of the country, let's have a conversation, and we'll see if there are some things that we can do to help support you in that area. Again,
Wow.
it's a nonprofit, so there's not a quarterly sales number we're trying to reach here. We're doing things in areas where people want to be creating community, whatever that looks like.
Right. I mean, it sounds kind of similar to Mass Fintech Hub nonprofit. I'm just a volunteer there, and I've been doing it for 6 years, and I love it. And I love the collaboration, and I'd love to, unify the belts and help each other, like we just talked about. That'd be wow. Can't wait. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fintech fun, and let's make it happen, because I'm excited. I'm really excited. Scott, thank you so much for coming on What the Heck Fintech. Gave us a whole great perspective. I love the Atlanta. I got to hit varsities now. I'm gonna craving for hot dogs. What a great conversation. I want to say thank you so much, and I'm sure our audience is going to want to reach out to you, because you talked about so many great things that we have to do together.
Well, thank you, Rob, for having me here, and it's been a fun conversation, and you make it easy to be a guest. So it's been a pleasure, and in all sincerity, if you're listening, or Rob, and you want to have a conversation about anything without any kind of pressure whatsoever, please reach out, and I'll take care of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott, and thank you, everybody, for listening. Okay, bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to What the Heck Fintech. Make sure you tune into our next episode as we continue to interview fintech leaders and share real-world stories from across the fintech ecosystem, so you can fully understand that fintech is FinLife.